I'm now going to give you a brief history of polio. Historians believe that polio has been around for thousands of years. This Egyptian carving, dated back anywhere from 1580 to 1350 BC, portrays a priest with a withered leg. In 1789, a British physician named Dr. Michael Underwood defines polio clinically for the first time as a debility of the lower extremities. And in 1840, in Germany, Dr. Jacob von Hein conducts the first systematic investigation of polio and develops a theory that the disease may be contagious. In 1894, the first significant outbreak of infantile paralysis, later identified as polio, is documented in the United States. In 1907, Swedish pediatrician Dr. Ivar Wickman categorized the different clinical types of polio. In 1908, Austrian Karl Landsteiner and Erwin Popper hypothesized that polio may be caused by a virus. In 1916, a polio epidemic in New York heightens research and concern into how the disease is spread. In 1931, several different types of the polio virus are identified, known as types 1, 2, and 3. In 1938, Franklin D. Roosevelt established the March of Dimes, a fundraising organization aimed at earning dimes to help research and fight polio. The first March of Dimes fundraising campaign raised over 2.8 million dimes that were sent directly to the White House. And in 1952, a polio epidemic became the worst outbreak in U.S. history. Of nearly 58,000 cases reported that year, 3,145 died, and 21,269 were left with mild to disabling paralysis. In 1955, Jonas Salk developed a vaccine for polio using money donated to his research from the March of Dimes. Now let's go into a little more detail about polio itself. Polio is highly regarded as the simplest significant virus. The etiology, poliomyelitis, causes what is known as the poliovirus. Morphology, polio is non-enveloped. A viral genome is that it is composed of an RNA genome. Let's learn now about the reservoir of polio. Humans are the only known reservoir of the poliovirus, which is transmitted most frequently by persons with inapparent infections. There is no asymptomatic carrier state except in immune-deficient persons. A fun fact about polio is that Boyd K. Packard suffered from what the doctors believed to be pneumonia. However, after he became well again, he found that he was initially unable to walk. It was not until he reached adulthood that he learned that he had actually had polio.
We now, after a short commercial break brought to you by our sponsors, go to Irvin Silva, who has more details about this fascinating polio virus.
Research will win, we know. If we all pitch in, we're bound to win with a high, hi ho, hi ho, hi ho, hi ho. We'll explode polio with dimes and quarters and our dollars, ho, hi ho.
Send your dimes and dollars to your local March of Dimes headquarters. Help make this the Victory March of Dimes.
Hi-ho, we'll lift our polio with dimes and quarters and our dollars, ho, hi-ho.
Attaboy, Pluto. Join 1954 March of Dimes today, folks.
Thank you, Dr. J.C. Norman, for sharing the etiology, the reservoir, and some interesting facts about the poliovirus. I'm Irvin Silva, and I'm the field reporter going into depth about the signs and the symptoms of the poliovirus, as well as I'll be talking about how the poliovirus has been getting from person to person. Today I also had the opportunity to interview a local girl, and she has shared her experience with me about the poliovirus. Now let us dig deeper as to what are the signs and the symptoms of the polio. As I have mentioned before, I had the wonderful opportunity to meet with a local girl who is bravely fighting the polio virus. She goes by the name of Nancy Van Pute. Nancy is a 10-year-old girl who loves going to school and loves making new friends. As I was speaking with Nancy Van Pute, I asked her what her experiences are with finding out that she has the polio virus. She first told me that she was very scared, but she also mentioned that she is very happy to help me inform other people as to what are the signs and the symptoms of the poliovirus are and how they may be transmitted from person to person. When I asked Nancy how she felt before going to the doctors finding out she has polio, she told me that she was at a friend's house and she was eating a delightful snack of cheese and crackers with her friend. After they ate the snacks, her friend went around and played in the backyard. But after a few minutes, Nancy started to feel tired and she wanted to go home, which is normal in a lot of children because they love to play a lot. When Nancy got home, she now started complaining of a tummy ache, and then she threw up all over the floor. She was feeling very sick, and so her mother cleaned her up and got her to bed. The very next day, as Nancy was at school during recess, she was playing ball. But while she was playing ball, she told me she started to feel a little bit of pain and a little bit of stiffness in her right leg. Thinking that she was playing too hard, she decided to rest. And then when she went back to class, she again started to feel nauseated and she threw up again. And so her doctor helped her get cleaned up and sent her home. The very next day, Nancy still wasn't feeling good, and so her mother took her to the doctor, where the doctor ran some tests and actually had her break the news that poor little Nancy had the polio virus. Nancy says she was very scared, but she's also a brave little girl. As you can see, she is smiling in this picture. Aside from the signs and the symptoms Nancy was showing before the doctor told her she had the polio virus, there are a few more I would like to list. They are included as sore throat, headache, vomiting, fatigue, back pain or stiffness, neck pain or stiffness, pain or stiffness in the arms or legs, muscle weakness or tenderness, meningitis, and fever. And these signs and symptoms usually last only between 1 to 10 days. Now we will go through the transmissions. And there are two different kinds of transmissions. And they are fecal to oral transmission and oral to oral transmission. First off, fecal to oral transmission is where the stool of an infected person has come into contact with food or water, and that food or water that has been contaminated finds itself in the mouth of another person. The second kind of transmission, oral to oral, and here there are only a few cases, but it is possible to receive the poliovirus with infection from a person's saliva. So whether we know how Nancy got polio, we are not sure. But we do know how we can be careful about what we drink and eat and who we are around with. Next, I'm showing a demograph as to how the transmission begins. From fecal matter contaminating food and water, and thus water and food get into the mouth, transmits the polio disease. Now that we have learned more about the polio virus by knowing the signs and symptoms and how it is transferable from person to person, it is now time to turn the time over to Victoria Coniligio, our other's news reporter, who will now show us how to treat, prevent, and control the polio virus. And also, please don't forget to donate to the March of Dimes so that we may together stop the polio virus in its tracks.
Welcome back. This is Victoria Coniglio reporting on the treatment of polio and its vaccine. As we're all aware, there's no cure for polio. But there is usually no permanent damage. For those that suffer from post-polio syndrome, there is physical therapy to help with any paralysis, and in case of breathing difficulties, a ventilator or the iron lung will be used. The picture on your left is of several children hooked up to this machine, and on the right what the ventilator may look like in the future. With this new vaccine, we hope that polio will become very rare. And remember that the best control and prevention for this disease is to be vaccinated. Since polio usually affects children, doctors recommend getting the vaccine while they are at an early age. At the moment, only the inactivated poliovirus vaccine, or IPV, is available, though an oral poliovirus vaccine may be available in years to come. 4 doses of the IPV are suggested at 2 months, 4 months, 6 to 18 months, and a booster at 4 to 6 years. Dr. Jonas Salk has made a wonderful discovery. As I'm sure you're aware, former President Franklin D. Roosevelt was diagnosed in 1921 with polio at the age of 39. That's very rare. He funded research and treatment for polio and also made his estate into a recovery retreat for those with this disease. Well, that is it for today's segment. We hope you enjoyed learning about polio.